The organized rape by deception construct, first draft. Remember, they're changing my voice. This information is very important. Let's get right into it. Point number 1. Colonialism, neocolonialism, and consent. No attractive female in her right mind would date a colonist or a neocolonist in a narrow or a broad sense of those words. This is a component of one measure of a female's intelligence and her ability to consent, right? In the true meaning of the word and not the wordplay, right? Not the con that is sent with their false scale of consent, right? So it's a con scale, a con man scale of consent, and it's not valid consent. That's why the word is spelled that way, believe it or not. I've done quite a bit of research and thinking about this, and that is the case. I'm just gonna say it again, make sure you're staying up to date here. 1, colonialism, neocolonialism, and consent. No attractive female in her right mind would date a colonist or a neocolonist in a narrow or a broad sense of the words. This is a component of one measure of a female's intelligence and her ability to consent. So one must leave the neocolonial grouping of cultures, or a female isn't that smart to date you, and she's not smart enough to truly consent, right? What does alcohol do? It impairs the judgment. If their judgment has been proven to be so impaired that they date the neo-colonial devil, then they're not smart enough to consent. That's part of the age of consent for a little girl. Part of the reason why it is that is because her brain isn't developed enough, and brains develop at different rates. They seem to be breeding people. In fact, I'm sure that they are, whose brains develop too slowly to ever correct their mistake in life, and they go to the grave embracing neocolonialism. I'm going to elaborate more on this when I make another video about this, just the first draft. Point number 2. Corporations, social clubs, lobby groups, government entities, and other more influential people get together and determine the general psychological construct, another con word, construct, of society, as they have for many hundreds of years. So again, these groups, corporations, what have you, they get together and they determine this general psychological construct of society as they have for many hundreds of years, learning from their mistake and building along the way. They are always seeking more social and sexual control. And this is why there are obelisks, Egyptian obelisks, which are phallic symbols in key locations in the world. Obviously, character should be the most sought after trait in a person. The most. Character, not money, not conformity. The focused moral intensity and real righteous heroism in the top martial artist, who by default is from the Royal Black African Falcon Martial Arts Order, is ideal. Okay? This doesn't mean other people can't get an attractive women or something. It means we need the valid point of reference. We need the truth, not some devil philosophy. We know this because of the spectrum of mind, body, soul, and spirit. That's how we know this. Obviously, I'm against all dating now if it's outside the divine order. Okay, but we know this. If they're not obeying God through me, we know this because of the spectrum of mind, body, soul, and spirit. So how do we know it? So how do you know it's a black African, right? Well, we know what characteristics does Martin Luther King have compared to George Bush, and King George. Okay, so how do we know this, right? We look at the various points of references, and it's as clear as day that it is this particular type of martial artist with this divine and holy presence that I'm the last one ever possible of. Okay? How stupid it is to cover it up when there's only one person like that on the entire planet. Okay? And he's the last one that ever will be. What do they have to gain by covering this up? Okay? They're just sadistic, and they want to use, confuse, and abuse, right? That's why those words flow together so well. Rhyme and reason, right? Use, confuse, and abuse. That is their tactics. Part of why I put it together and I say, let's discuss this and let's get your thoughts together, understand what your beliefs are, organize your thoughts, write them down, make rough drafts, second drafts, third drafts, what have you, okay, until you really get it together. And then even then, keep exploring it. Make sure you're right. Point number 3. There are many managerial groups that exist that build confidence as part of the con. There's another con word, right? Confidence. They do this so people have a false sense of security and a self-destructive confidence that causes them to make stupid mistakes they otherwise wouldn't, right? Mistakes. They have made it unpopular for people to write things down and get their thoughts together in order to figure out what the ideal man is like and why the common conceptions of ideal or dreamy are childish and incorrect. The people who attractive females are willing to date generally are horrible people, okay? The purpose isn't to offend people, but is to tell you the truth, okay? And again, what was this word? Confidence is another con word. Construct is another con word, okay? Why? Because it's how it's used and how it's used to confuse. 4, one of the major tactics they use is contrast. To understand the contrast game, it is helpful to talk about the good cop, bad cop psychology that police officers use to get people to open up for them. It is similar to the psychology that's being used to get females to open up their legs for the rich and their allies who are the lowest forms of life, right? Put things in their proper place so you can live the truth. Put things in the proper place in your mind. Where do the people who are the most guilty belong? In the category of the lowest forms of life. How could it be any other way? I'm getting a little wind here. Well, I guess I'll just wait here a second. Okay, point number 5. The foolish participation in the various cultures we see is clear-cut evidence that attractive females are subtly coerced, confused, misdirected, tricked, and psychologically deceived to the point that their romantic judgment is the essence of terrible with no exception. If you're dating somebody who's cheating me out of my right to lead, that's bad judgment. If you're allowed to be attractive still, and you're dating anybody right now, then that's bad judgment. The essence of terrible judgment is cheating me out of my right to leave, even if you don't know who I am. Your judgment has found that you're content with whatever situation that you're in. And when we look at the spectrums of spirits and personalities and characteristics, we see that we cannot find an exception for this idea. I will allow for the possibility that somewhere, somehow, there's somebody chained in a basement who, if they saw me under the right circumstances, would give me my right to lead. But that's not exactly the same thing. I want to keep going. I mean, that's a very complicated topic, and it takes some exploring and thinking to see why there's no exception. Well, let's keep going. It has to do with destiny and so on and so forth. 6. How do so many bikers, gangsters, corporate scum, skaters, jocks, social club types, fraternity types, rockers, emos, goths, military types, police, intelligence agents, politicians, organized crime, etc., manage to get attractive-ish to attractive females? They obviously play their parts in the game and pretend they are men and that they are worth dating, etc. Right? You know, a man, ver and virtue means man. You know, versus Babylon, the Babylon game, right? The devil's game. Rothschild, right? The banker, moneylender derived culture game. Point number 7. The very phrase turned out by itself proves me right. Consider the porn industry, pimps, players, and LGBT activists. How are they so successful in turning people out if schools and other parts of the psychological construct aren't instrumental in making it so they are ripe for being turned out? Point number 8. We go to the con words again, some of them real quickly. Con words: confuse, consent, construct, confidence, contrast, contrast, right? Contrast. Also condescending. Who's condescending and exactly why, and what is the psychological effect? And of course, this word I brought up, it's not a common word, but mistakes. It's a priceless word, priceless, right? The very essence of a mistake has to do with mistakes, has to do with romantic injustice. God is love. God is the creator, right? Procreation versus concrete and concreation. I urge you to watch this video several times and take notes. 9. I put some instant fails, so to speak. What is instant failure? And someone can't scramble to do the right thing quickly enough if they have the opportunity to after they make that fail? Marrying outside of the divine order, horrible mistake. Dying without repenting for romantic injustice, horrible mistake. Dedicating oneself to reinforcing the game and or the psychological construct, horrible mistake. If you're an attractive female rejecting me, the top martial arts ever possible, horrible mistake. Okay, to be a gay person that sexually harasses me, the top martial arts ever, or catfishes me, or encourages people to shun me, horrible mistake. Real quickly, some scriptures, and I'll end this video. 1 John 2:15, do not love the world or anything in the world. Whoever loves the world, love for the Father is not in them. Are these cultures that I named in the world? Absolutely. Proverbs 5:11, at the end of your life you will groan when your flesh and body are spent. Verse 12, you will say how I hated discipline, how my heart spurned correction. Thank you.